everyone. Welcome back to Podcast Without Borders. We are so glad you joined us today. Whatever brought you here, we hope to leave you educated about current events regarding migration and inspired to help make a difference and spread the word.
Yes, thank you, Dakota, for reminding our listeners about the purpose of our podcast. Again, welcome back, and today we will be discussing the effect of migration on children. In particular, we will be discussing the separation that occurs between children and families at the border.
And now it's time for our fact of the day.
According to the Washington Post, as a result of a lawsuit against the Trump administration, the government identified about 2,700 separated children in federal custody as of June 2018. Some of them are infants and toddlers.
I always enjoy hearing new statistics that I was unaware of. And now for our interview segment.
Today we have the privilege of hearing from a lawyer in immigration. We will be getting some information on immigration history from him. Welcome, Tyler. Thank you for joining us.
Howdy, y'all. Thanks for having me.
How have immigration laws changed over the years?
Well, in the mid-90s, the U.S. passed a series of laws which increased the federal power to arrest, detain, and eventually deport non-citizens.
What were these laws exactly, Tyler?
In 1997, Clinton passed the Illegal Immigration Reform and Responsibility Act, which basically made drastic changes to immigration. The act gave the U.S. Attorney General authority to build barriers among the United States and Mexico. A study recently done in 2018 by Julia Wang, called Health and Mental Health Effects of Local Immigration Enforcement, showed that after the act was passed, the mental health outcomes of Latin American undocumented immigrants in the U.S. was significantly poor due to the fear of deportation.
So how would deportation affect an individual?
Well, you see, individuals who are deported experience a number of traumas, violence, and abuse before, during, and after the deportation process. A large number of immigrants who are deported are sent back to some very intense and dangerous living environments in the countries of origin. Researchers at the Global Migration Project have introduced a database that keeps track of deported immigrants who have faced death or other harms. They found numerous cases where the individuals suffered kidnappings, torture, rape, and murder. According to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, 79% of families in detention have a credible fear of persecution if they were to ever return to their home countries. Deportation affects individuals in so many ways.
Wow, that's very informative. We're lucky to have had your knowledge on our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Tyler.
It was an honor to be here. Thank you both so much for having me.
And now a quick word about one of our sponsors. This sponsor is Jim Barron, the owner of Blue Mesa Grill and TNT Tacos and Tequila restaurants in Dallas-Fort Worth. Jim is one restaurant owner who is trying to persuade the State Restaurant Association and other trade groups to get more aggressive in pushing for reforms dealing with immigration. Jim stated, "We're going into this all together, holding hands, hoping we can do something about it. There are many other companies that support immigrants and their families. Let's stand together with Jim and support his business and look for other businesses as well that are fighting this fight with us." The next guest we have is someone who has been personally affected by illegal immigration laws and these separations at the border. Maria Elena, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So where do we begin? I suppose you can tell us your story and what makes this all personal to you.
Yes, well, my parents came over with me and my sister illegally when I was 10 in 2005, and my father was deported in 2006. Our family faced the fear of deportation every day, and when my father was gone, it was so hard on my mom to support us as a single mother, and we, as kids, had lost our dad. She worked so hard to try and bring him back the following years.
And how did that affect your day-to-day life?
Growing up, we lived in such fear of the police and deportation, and that immigration and being illegal were like equal terms to us. They became like bad words we didn't want to say. We didn't know that they were different. We lived in fear of the police and that one day they'd come to take us, in fear that they'd take our mother too.
So how did the separations at the border tie into your personal story?
Well, for us as kids, it was very traumatic being separated from our father and constantly fearing being separated from our mother too. I remember them making plans that we would be taken care of by a family friend in the case that she was arrested one day. I can't imagine how it is for the kids who lose both their parents and are in a foreign country all alone. They must feel such fear and confusion as to what is happening. We need to find a solution to this problem that doesn't involve children being torn apart from their parents, which is their only familiar thing in this very unfamiliar place.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your opinion with us. Getting an inside perspective is very important to us.
It was my pleasure.
As our podcast draws to a close, we want to personally thank each and every person that was a part of our show today.
Yes, our show wouldn't be possible without those willing to share their experiences or our listeners.
As always, we want to close out with a practical challenge for you to take action in the fight for a change in immigration policies.
There are many great programs that are working hard to help immigrant families. One of these programs is the Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services, or RACES for short.
If you go to their website, www.racestexas.org, and click Take Action, they will show you all of the volunteer opportunities that they have to offer. You can volunteer to help these families with their cases and in the courtroom. You can help with outreach, post-release, and more.
If you aren't able to volunteer, you can always donate right on their website. They even have an option for recurring giving. Anything helps, considering getting involved in the fight for these families.
We have enjoyed having you all today, and we hope you'll join us next week on Podcast Without Borders.